Lillahi ta'ala, correct your intentions. These are the last fundamentals for the Sunni intellectual, meaning the end of the book here. We'll see if we'll finish. Maybe we'll finish the whole book tonight, or maybe we'll need one more session, inshallah. And this portion of the book is called Some Rules and Arguments. And it is what I describe to you as mental protein, meaning that it's beneficial for your mind, all of these pointers here. And the next pointer is that the validator of visibility is existence. That which validates a thing's being seen is existence, not createdness. It's not being created that makes something seeable or visible. It is existence that makes something seeable or visible. So that's first thing. The validator of visibility is existence and not createdness. Okay, so we Ahlul Sunnati wal Jama'ah, we say that it is possible that God be seen. And there's ayahs of the Quran and hadiths of the Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam to prove that. And some people said it is not possible for God to be seen. They said because God is not a body, so you can't see him. It's impossible. We say to them, being a body is not the validator of something being seen. Being a body is not the validator of visibility. You don't see something, Ani. Something is not seeable because it's a body. So if that one were to say, why not? The answer would be because we can see what's not a body, such as color and motion and stillness. Those are seeable, but they're not bodies. Motion is not a body. Stillness is not a body. Color is not a body. So we didn't see something because it's a body in the first place. So you can't deny that God could be seen because he's not a body. So the one who was saying the wrong thing at this point, he should say, oh, yes, thank you for correcting me. That's right. I understand now. But if he's a rotten one, he'll continue to argue, although his point was just dismantled. He's going to, as they say, move the goalpost. It means change where the bullseye should be. Because he'll say, well, yeah, that's true. You did see the colors and the motion and the stillness, although those aren't bodies. But you only saw all of that because it's created. And Allah is not created. So you can't see him. Now, if that's the way the conversation went, then it should be said to that person, if being created was the reason for him to be seen, if that's what you really believed in the first place, then that's where you should have started. You didn't start there. You only went there because I debunked where you started. Where you started was wrong and it got debunked. So you shouldn't have kept going. So then you changed and you said, no, well, still though, you saw that because it's created. What happened to seeing it because it's a body? Now you gave two different reasons. Which one is it? Did you see something because it's a body, or you saw something because it's created? And really the answer is neither. I'm not asking you so that you can tell me which one is correct. Neither of those are correct. I'm just pointing out to you the inconsistency in your thinking and the double standard that you allow for yourself. So let's say that person says, well, yeah, I shouldn't have said body at first. I should have just said created. You're right. That was my bad. I should have said that you can't see Allah because he's not created. You only see all the things around you because they're created. So the answer to him is to say, that's still untrue. You don't see something because it's created. You see something because it exists. And the proof that what you said is false and that what I said is true is just to investigate the meaning of being created. You said We only see things because they're created. And God is not created, so he won't be seen. And I'm saying to you, you don't see something because it's created. You see something because it exists. And God exists, so he can be seen. Why is your claim false and my claim is true? Because what does being created mean? Being created means existing after non existence. So, to understand createdness, you need to understand two things. One thing is non existence, and the other thing is existence. And being created means that one's existence followed non existence. This is what it means to be created. Now, out of these two things, let's take the first one, non existence. Did you see something due to its non existence? So the answer is absolutely not. So you never saw something because it doesn't exist. So then what's left? Being created means existing after non existence, and the non existence doesn't validate seeing anything. So what's left? What's left is that existence that followed the non existence. It's not the createdness, it's the existence. So the reason why we saw things is because they exist, not because they're created. And Allah exists, so he can be seen. So if that person were to say, but we see things in places and directions, and we see bodies with colors, and they are moving or still, and Allah is not like any of that. So the answer is, that's right. That's all true. But that doesn't mean you can't see Allah. What that means is you won't see Allah like you see the other things. Doesn't mean you can't see him. Nothing you said means that God can't be seen. It only means that God won't be seen like other things are seen. Yes, you see things that are in places and directions and they are moving or still, but none of that is the reason you see it. You think the reason you see some object is that it's still, or the reason you see it is that it's a body, or the reason you see it is because it's in a place. All of those are not the reasons you see it. The reason you see it is because it exists. Not because it's in a place. Rather, you're seeing it as it is. Not that you see it because it's in a place, you see it because it exists. And when we say you see it, means you are seeing it as it is. You're perceiving it by sight as it truly is. Meaning, it happens to be in a place. No, you don't see it because it's in a place. You see it because it exists, and you're just going to see it as it is. So it exists in a place. So you're going to see it in a place. It happens to be in a place, so you're going to see it in a place. But you're not going to see it because it's in a place. It happens to be over one thing and under another thing, but you don't see it because it's over one thing and under another thing. It's over your table and under your roof, so that's why you see it. That's not why you see it. You see it because it exists, and it happens to be over your table and under your roof, so you see it as it is. Also, if you see God in the afterlife, you will see him as he is, and he is not in a place. And he is without shape, without form, without color. He is without a direction. He is dissimilar to everything. So you will see him as he is, uncreated, dissimilar, not in a place, not in a direction. That means you will see him unlike you see other things. Any question there? And it is not impossible to see creations while seeing God. That's a nice detail for you that Sheikh gave us, citing some of the scholars. Some scholars of Ahlul Sunnah said, when you see Allah, you won't see anything else. And other scholars said, and this is what we learned is strong, it's not impossible to see something else while seeing God. You'll be seeing God unlike you see anything else, and it's not impossible that you'd be seeing something else when you see God. Okay, next pointer. Allah is a doer in eternity with an eternal doing. And the done thing is created, according to the Maturidiyah. Allah is a doer in eternity with an eternal doing, and the done thing is created. So let's take that sentence first. That's simple. Yani, it's deep and it's profound, but it's straightforward. Allah has a doer in eternity. Yani, Allah has a creator in eternity. You can put the word creator in the place of the word doer. Allah has a creator in eternity with an eternal doing, so you can put creating. With eternal creating, or you can put the word creation, capital C. With an eternal creation, that means creating, attribute of creating. With eternal creation, that means he has an attribute called creating, or an attribute called creation. In Arabic, it's khalq. He has an attribute called khalq, creating. So, he is a doer in eternity. Yes. With an eternal doing, because if he's a doer, he must have a doing. He can't be a doer without a doing. It doesn't make sense. And he can't say he's not a doer. Uh, that's what the Maturidi said. Now I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit. So, Allah is a doer in eternity with an eternal doing. And the done thing is created. So you have three things here: doer, doing, done. You have three things, but you have two sides only. One side is created, the other side is uncreated. So one side is uncreated, the other side is created, because there's no third. There's no third case here. Something's either created or uncreated. As if that's if it exists. If something exists, then either it's created or it's uncreated. Okay. So there's two cases here: created or uncreated. But we just named three things here: doer, doing, and done. How do these three things here fit into these two categories? Created or uncreated? So we're saying Allah is a doer in eternity. So that means uncreated doer. He is a doer uncreated. So doer goes on the uncreated side. With an eternal doing, yani with a doing uncreated. So doing also goes on the uncreated side. And the done thing is created. So done goes on the created side. That's according to the Maturidis. So before I read forward, any question about that? Yani, rather, let me say anything unclear. Don't ask me anything. Anything unclear about that? It's really straightforward, but you might have a question there. You could have a question here because the Ash'aris said something else. Maybe your mind is in tune with the Ash'aris. So that raises a question for you from what was said here. So what did the Ash'aris say? The Ash'ariyah rather said, yani they instead said, instead of saying this sentence here, which is very straightforward, really, they said something else. They said Allah eternally had power to do something. Allah eternally had power to do something. So they're saying Allah is eternally powerful. He eternally had the power to do something. Okay, yani, that seems very fine. You might even say that sounds like the same thing. But they said he is not called a doer before a done thing existed. According to the Ash'aris, Allah is not called a doer before a done thing existed. Ah, so what would that imply? What would that imply? Wouldn't that imply if the word creator can go here in the space of doer? Wouldn't that imply saying he's not called creator before creation existed? That's what they said though. So they said before a done thing exists, they're not going to call him a doer. They said, though he did not change by that done thing when the done thing did exist, and then they called him a doer, that didn't make him change. They just said, now the word is applicable. They're saying, now the word is applicable. He didn't change. So this here is the famous case of Tekween. That's a big summary for you. Tekween. This is a very important case in Aqidah. The Tekween, according to the Maturidis, Tekween is an eternal attribute of Allah. It is the eternal doing, the Tekween. The Tekween is God's doing, creating. But according to the Ash'aris, the Tekween is the done thing. It is something that's a trace of God's power, creation. Hmm. So, without me going further there, it's not the plan to go further here. The plan here is to just introduce you to this. Now, this is a review, so you might have taken this already. And we went through this in other lessons too, or this might be the first time you're hearing this. And it's possible this is the first time you're hearing this, and it's, as one might say, it's above your pay grade, and you don't even know what I'm saying right now. Uh, why this is here? Like everything else, because it's beneficial for you to understand it. This is very good for your mind to understand the difference between these two sayings. And really, you should take this and think about it. This one is a very lofty case. Some scholars even thought that these two sayings mean the same thing. And I want to say here that these two sayings are between the Ash'aris and the Maturidis. All of Ahlul Sunnah are Ash'aris and Maturidis in Aqidah, from between the four madhabs, including the Hanbalis. And according to what we learned, there's not a third party in the Aqidah for Ahlul Sunnah. We say the Hanbalis, the real Hanbalis, are Ash'aris, like Ibn al-Jawzi. Ibn al-Jawzi's talk in his books is Ash'ari talk, rahimahullah ta'ala. And this third group that some people claim, why I'm here, why I'm bringing that up here, because this third group that some people claim is a group of Ahlul Sunnah, from all of what I heard about them, they don't have anything to talk about in the Aqidah except whether they're going to take the attributes literally or not. What about all the cases in Aqidah? What about all the different masail, the different cases, the different topics? This is a topic in Aqidah here. So that third group that's supposed to be an independent madhab in Aqidah, different from Ash'aris and Maturidis. What do they say about this case, the Takween, and other cases also? Because they're either going to be, if they're really Ahlus Sunnah, they're either going to be Ash'aris or Maturidis. So, any question here? Strong saying, and that's why we started with it, is that Allah is a doer in eternity with an eternal doing, and the done thing is created. That's really what the Sheikh believes and what he supports. And it's easy for the people to teach them that Allah eternally had power to do something, meaning to create. Allah eternally had power to create. That's simple, and there's no wrong belief when you say that to a new person. Very easy. Now, this part, he's not called a doer before the done thing existed. That you're not going to give that to a new person. If someone's a new person listening to this lesson right now, then you got something extra today. All the new person needs is this one right here. Allah eternally had the power to do something, meaning he eternally had the power to create. For you. So moving right along here. Next pointer, very important. Very important so that you're not a naive fellow. The implication of one's opinion is his opinion if it is obvious. Being naive is not always bad, but naive person can take advantage. You might take advantage of a naive person. Sometimes person is naive because he is sincere and he's pure. And he's just straightforward. He's not tricky. The implication of one's opinion is his opinion if it is obvious. If that implication is obvious. Very important. What does implication mean? It means what you're not saying. Therefore, Yani, according to this rule, saying that God takes a seat means that the speaker is an anthropomorphist. So someone said, God takes a seat. You say to him, you believe that God is a body, and that's blasphemy. And then he'll say, I never said God is a body. Don't put words in my mouth. So you say to him, that's true. You didn't say God is a body explicitly. What you did say is that God takes a seat. And this obviously implies that God is a body. Not obscurely, rather obviously, conspicuously implies that God is a body. So yeah, you do believe God is a body, even if you don't want to say it. You really said it, but you're trying to trick me. So stop saying, if you don't believe that God is a body, stop saying he takes a seat. So the implication of one's opinion is his opinion, if it is obvious. So we just took an example of an obvious implication. And since the implication is obvious, we confirm for that speaker what he does not say explicitly. We are bringing out explicitly what he's hiding, and we're confirming it on him. And we're not allowing him to deny it because he refuses to say it explicitly. We're going to say to him, even if you refuse to say it explicitly, we're still going to confirm it for you because what you said obviously implies it, not obscurely. The implication of one's opinion is his opinion if it is obvious. Therefore, saying that God is a knower without knowledge means that the speaker is an atheist. Saying that God is a knower without knowledge means that the speaker is an atheist. What's an atheist? An atheist is a person who denies the existence of God. If someone said God is a knower without knowledge, he's an atheist. By implication, by the obvious implication of what he's saying. What that means is to say God is a knower without knowledge, that's a trick. That's a way to smile in your face. If you fall for it, he's going to keep smiling in your face. If you don't fall for it, he's going to act offended. What do you mean? How can you? How can you? You're the one saying atheism. Because, why is it trick? Because to say God is a knower, that much confirms the existence of God. So you wouldn't think that a person who's saying that God is a knower is an atheist because he's confirming the existence of God and even describing him as a knower. So you wouldn't think he's an atheist. But when he says, yeah, he is a knower without knowledge, though, he's a knower without knowledge, then if he doesn't have knowledge means he's not really a knower. If he doesn't have knowledge, he's not really a knower. The person would say, no, he's a knower by himself, not by knowledge. So we say to them, saying he's a knower by himself, not by knowledge, still denies actually that he's a knower. He wouldn't be a knower without knowledge. Doesn't make sense. Don't let somebody talk to you like that. Knower by definition means someone who has knowledge. Can't be a knower without knowledge. Now, so he has here denied the knowledge of God. This means he denied God's attribute. Denying God's attribute, it basically means God doesn't exist. To deny God's attribute, any one of his attributes, if you deny any one of his necessary attributes, it leads to saying God does not exist. And really, this one who would say God is a knower without knowledge, he would also say, and he's powerful without power, and he sees without sight, and he hears without hearing. So he's saying God is not alive, or that's not what he says. He doesn't say God is not alive. He says God doesn't have life or knowledge or power or will or sight or hearing or speech. So right there, he's an atheist. He denied all the attributes of Allah. But if you called him an atheist, he's gonna say, I'm not an atheist. I say he's alive. And he's a knower, and he's powerful, and he's a willer, and he's a hearer, and he's a seer, and he's a speaker. I say it. I'm not an atheist. So we said to him, yeah, you say it, but you're a double talker. Because although you say what denies it. Because when you say without knowledge, without power, without life, without hearing, without sight, without speech, then really you're denying what you're saying. You're saying it, yeah, but then you say what denies what you're saying. You say something and then you say what denies what you're saying. And you expect me to take that from you, to accept that from you, and to respect it. You expect me to respect that from you. In reality, when you say God does not have life or knowledge or power or hear or will or sight or hearing or speech, then actually you're denying God's existence. That's the part you really believe in. What you really believe in, that he does not have knowledge or power or sight or hearing or speech. That's what you believe in truly. And I'm not going to accept that from you. So to try to uh, appease me, you're just going to say, okay, but he is a knower though, and he's a seer though, and he's a hearer. So you expect me to accept that from you? It's unacceptable. Actually, it's blasphemy. Now, someone might say, this one, I don't know, is he really an atheist though? Because he is, at the end of the day, saying God exists, isn't he? So the answer is, he's a kind of atheist. There's different types of them. His atheism is a subtle one. It's atheism by implication. He's not an atheist. He's not a straightforward, outright atheist. That's what he's not. He's not an outright atheist who says simply, I deny the existence of God. It's just like Wahhabi, the reverse end of the spectrum, though. Because Wahhabi doesn't say, I worship a body. I worship a creation. I worship my imagination. He doesn't say it. He'll even deny it. He'll say, I do not worship a body. Allah is not a body. And Allah cannot be imagined, and nothing is like him. That's what he's going to say with his tongue. But if you investigate his case, he's going to say, yes, he is above us. Yes, he descends down to the lowest sky. Yes, he takes hold of creations in his hands. He shall take hold of the heavens and crumple them. He will ball the heavens up in his hands. He will put his foot in hellfire. You tell him, hold on, man, this is crazy. You are describing a figure. You're describing a body. He's going to say, I'm not saying Allah has a body. You're putting words in my mouth. So you see how he's double talking you? He expects you to accept what he's saying to you. Yani, he expects you to respect what he's saying. The implication of one's opinion is his opinion if it's obvious. So maybe some of the people can't implement this rule. Maybe they don't have strong enough perception to implement this rule. Maybe some people, they don't have the ability to read between the lines. And in order to implement this rule, you have to be able to read between the lines, as they say. Because that's what we're talking about here. Not taking the face value statement of the person, but reading between the lines. The implication of one's opinion is his opinion if it is obvious. Therefore, one is not necessarily an atheist if he says that seeing God is impossible. Why he's not necessarily an atheist if he says that seeing God is impossible? Because when he says seeing God is impossible, he thinks that that's because God is not a body, or that's because God is not created. He doesn't know what's the reason for something to be seen. He doesn't know the reason for something to be seen is its existence. And therefore, he doesn't realize that denying that Allah could possibly be seen is actually denying his existence. And it is in reality a statement of atheism, but he doesn't perceive that. It's not obvious. He has a blunder that's not far-fetched one. Because he thinks that the reason something is seen is that it's in a place, for example. Yeah, he thinks this is the reason, the illah, the reason for it. The reason that if this is what exists, then the seeing will exist. If being in the place exists, then being seeable will exist. This is what he thinks is the case. So he's, even though when he says seeing God is impossible, that is truly a statement of atheism, but it's not obvious. Yani, it's not obvious to someone like him. It's going to be obvious to you because you've studied and you got strong in this issue, and you are able now, you are more capable of reading between the lines and understanding implications. So it wasn't obscure for you. So it's important for you to learn here, even now, to learn that something like this, even though it's clear for you, we're going to say it's, yani, even though it's obvious to you, we're going to say it's not obvious. So you can look from someone else's perspective. So he has a mistake here. You should be able to see his angle so that you could say, this guy, his blunder, he's not seeing it. And it's not obvious, so that I should confirm that he's an atheist and call him a kafir. Here, I'm not going to call him a kafir for denying that God could be seen. I'll try to help him understand what he does not understand. But the one who said that God takes a seat, I will definitely call him a kafir unless he doesn't know what it means to take a seat. And I'll try to help him too. And the one who says that God is a knower without knowledge, also he's a kafir, and I'll try to help him too. But the one who says God can't be seen, I'm not going to say he's a kafir, and I'll try to help him. Any question? Uh, so this rule, the implication of one's opinion is his opinion. If it is obvious, this is the strong, accurate rule. There's still two other statements. Some say the implication of one's opinion is not his opinion. That's a statement. It's not his opinion. And what that means is it's not necessarily his opinion. That's what it means. SubhanAllah. Those scholars who said the implication of one's opinion is not his opinion, they meant it's not a rule that it's always going to be his opinion. So we're going to say, since it's not definitive rule always that the implication of one's opinion is his opinion, then we're going to say the implication of one's opinion is not his opinion. So when you say it that way, though, that's not the stronger way. Stronger way is to say it this way. The implication of one's opinion is his opinion if it is obvious. Now, there's much less room for confusion here. Because if you take that other statement and say the implication of one's opinion is not his opinion, then if you don't know how to direct that statement properly, then you're going to say, if someone says that God takes a seat, we're not going to say he's an anthropomorphist, because the implication of one's opinion is not his opinion. And if someone said that God is a knower without knowledge, we're not going to say he's an atheist, because the implication of one's opinion is not his opinion. So those scholars who said the implication of one's opinion is not his opinion, they didn't mean it that way. They didn't mean it in a way that someone could take that statement and use it the way I just showed you now, to deny that the one who says that God takes a seat is an anthropomorphist. They didn't mean it that way. What they meant is what I'm telling you now. The implication of one's opinion is his opinion if it is obvious, but they're saying it in a different way. Since they're not putting if it is obvious in their statement, then they don't want to say the implication of one's opinion is his opinion. So instead of saying the implication of one's opinion is his opinion, they say the implication of one's opinion is not his opinion. But what they really meant is unless it's obvious. So since they didn't say that part, unless it's obvious, then it's not the better way to state this rule. Because then someone's going to take their statement and misapply it, like I just showed you. And then there's a third statement. Some scholars say the implication of one's opinion is his opinion. period. In this part, if it is obvious to them, it's not a condition. If you say the implication of one's opinion is his opinion, period, and you leave out this part deliberately, if it is obvious, you deliberately leave that part out, that means that you're taking a different position. If you take this position and you say the implication of one's opinion is his opinion, you're going to be even stricter than we are. The one who takes this saying, the implication of one's opinion is his opinion, period, he's even stricter than we are. Then he's definitely going to say, whoever said that God takes a seed is an anthropomorphist. And whoever said that God is a knower without knowledge is an atheist. And he's going to add, and whoever said that seeing God is impossible, he's an atheist too. So, because they're stricter when you go that way. If you go that way, then you're going to say Shiites a kafir too, because implications. Like we say, for example, if someone just believes that Ali should have been the first ruler, he doesn't believe like that the angel went to the wrong person, he should have went to Ali. He doesn't believe that the family of the prophet are gods. He doesn't believe, he doesn't deny destiny, and he like this. Just he has something that, according to us, we're going to say when we take this way. The implication of one's opinion is his opinion. If it is obvious, then we're going to say that one, we're not going to call him a kafir. Even though if you take what he said and you follow it up, Yani, if you say, Ali should have been the first caliph, not Abu Bakr. According to that, this has implications that lead to deeming the companions misguided, all of them. Leads to deeming all the companions misguided, which leads to debunking the entire religion, since the companions are the ones who conveyed the religion to us. And if all the companions are misguided and all the companions could defy Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then what is the trustworthiness of our religion coming from these people? So look how far I went there. So is your average Shiite who thinks Ali should have been the first caliph? He went that far? He even perceived that? He didn't even perceive that. So, according to some scholars, the implication of one's opinion is his opinion, and therefore, everything that leads to blasphemy is blasphemy, obvious or not. So, let's stop there then. Any question? You said the people who don't follow the two scholars, Maturidi and Ash'ari in general, can we say they are misguided? I would say that depends on what they don't follow them means. Depends on how you explain they don't follow those two scholars. Because let's put it this way, a person's not going to be misguided if he believes in Allah and he believes in the Messenger of Allah, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He believes that Islam is the only correct religion. He believes that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam came, it was truthful in everything that he conveyed from Allah Ta'ala, and he believes in paradise and hell and judgment day. For example, he believes in the Quran. So, like, if this is the person's case, nothing that I said right there is deviant belief, but that doesn't mean that you're following Al-Ash'ari and Al-Maturidi. When you follow Al-Ash'ari or Al-Maturidi, it means you're going to explain the matters of the creed according to one of those two schools, one of those two scholars. The way you talk about the belief is going to be the way they talk about it. Just like if you learn Hanafi school, then the way you talk about purification and prayers and fasting is going to be the way the Hanafis do. Even if you didn't know that you learned the Hanafi school, but if that's what you learned, because you were, let's say, you were an Indian or Pakistani, and that's what you grew up learning that, and you never had any idea, then you're going to talk the way they talk because that's what you took. And same thing. So if you're Ash'ari or Maturidi, you're going to talk about the belief the way they talk. So maybe there's someone who just has basic belief and he hasn't gone into any of this. So not to mention also, there was considerable time before Al-Maturidi and Al-Ash'ari appeared. They both appeared at around the year 300. So 300 years before, there were 300 years before they appeared. So those who were before them, they had the same belief. But then when these two appeared, they knew how to put the knowledge about the creed together and talk about it in a nice packaged. They knew how to package it and deliver it for you. So they packaged it and delivered it. And when someone follows the way of either of these, then he'll package it the way they package it and deliver it how they deliver it. You said, what are they called? Etheri. No. Yani, I never heard about that. But Yani, that's why I said what I said about a third group. I'm not sure why people want to even go that way. What's appealing about it? Like, I feel like it's a way to be closer to the Wahhabis because they would call themselves Atharis and they would say that they follow the Hanbali school. But those people are not Wahhabis. They say Ahmad ibn Hanbal was an Athari. Well, real meaning of Athari is a Hadith scholar. He was an Athari with the meaning of a Hadith scholar. But what they need to say is who documented this madhab? Who are the imams of this madhab? This is like a phantom madhab. Like, produce an aqidah, for example. We can produce aqidah of a Nasafi, for example. That's a Maturidi book. Or we can produce like the aqidah of Sanusi. That's an Ash'ari book. So where's Athari aqidah? Who are the imams of this group? And what are the cases they talked about? Since they have their own madhab. The only thing they talked about is whether they're going to explain the mutashabih ayahs or not. That's all. Because that's the only thing I hear those people talking about. And why would someone take a position, a very strict position, and say, we're not going to explain mutashabih ayahs, we do tafweed, we do tafweed, we do tafweed. And the Sahaba explained mutashabih ayahs. It's confirmed from Ibn Abbas that he did it and from other Sahaba that they did it. So why would someone have to, for what reason is to be that strict about it, to say this is the only way we're going to do it, this is our madhab? Wait. Thing is, though, from what I have encountered from the people who are claiming this Athari madhab, there's no need to make an enemy out of these people. I didn't see that there's a reason to make an enemy out of them. Yeah, I really don't try to be offensive to them, but I am gonna really say what I'm saying here because case needs to be thought about so a person can look into this thing. You don't want to just be talking and saying stuff. So, who are the imams of this madhab? Where are their mutun? What books do they have? How is this madhab being passed throughout the centuries? If this madhab is being passed throughout the centuries, there must be books about it. And there must be imams who have carried this madhab and been passing it on. having students who learned under them, who would in turn get students to teach, who in turn get students to teach until we got it today. It looks to me like it's phantom. It's like a phantom madhab. It's like as if it's like a legend. So I do ask, really. I asked my sheikhs, some of them, I asked teachers, is there a third madhab? They said there's no third madhab. Yani, the books that I've studied, I never, ever, ever saw a single one ever that said there's a third madhab. In the book of uh, Muhammad Murtada Zabidi, Ithafu Sadat al-Muttaqeen, he said Ahlu Sunnah are the Ash'aris and the Maturidis. And he said the Ash'ari can be called a Maturidi, and the Maturidi can be called an Ash'ari. So he didn't say anything about a third group. Any last question? You're welcome. Yeah, so those brothers who are saying this, don't argue with them. They're not saying blasphemy from what I've seen. They're not saying blasphemy. They're not agreeing with the Wahhabis. I'm not sure what's attractive, though, about this third thing here. Amin wa fikum. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdik. أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك